Hi guys, DevilHunterXYZ, and I know it's been quite some time, as I keep always saying, but here back with another movie review. Okay, it's not like I haven't really seen movies lately. I have, but there are times I just don't really have the chance to really do reviews. It's kind of been a kind of a crazy year for me right now. But anyway, I did manage to take the time to go out and see the new remake of Aladdin, and for the most part, I would say it plays off pretty similar to the old original Disney cartoon animated version, and you know I would have to say it kind of really left me surprised, to say the least. So let's jump right into it. Well, for terms in summary, it's pretty much plays out the same like in the animated version. So I mean, if you haven't seen the animated version, I guess you kind of been more or less missing out. But I guess to kind of give like a short gist of what the story is, essentially you have this street urchin named Aladdin and his pet monkey Abu trying to living off of the streets, just trying to survive, whatever. They ended up meeting Princess Jasmine, who wandered around the streets trying to take in the life outside of the palace that she's been like, accustomed to. Yeah, they eventually befriend each other, and I guess while that throughout that's been happening, Jafar, who is basically the royal servant, the royal advisor to the Sultan, he ends up being tired of being called second best to everyone else, or to the Sultan. So, of course, throughout the beginning part of the movies, he's been having thieves and other henchmen trying to retrieve a lamp for him that can give him magical powers, essentially. Of course, all that's been failing. Then, of course, Aladdin eventually does meet up with Princess Jasmine in the palace, and he eventually does find out her true identity as being the princess, and he knows that the princess must marry a prince, and so he figures that he doesn't really stand a chance. But during that time, though, Jafar manages to witness Aladdin's acrobatic skills, how his courage, paralysis. He ends up taking hostage Aladdin to take him to the cave where all the stuff is being held in to try to get him to try to help him get the lamp. And of course, he promises him to make him a rich man so that he can actually be worthy enough to try to marry Princess Jasmine. And of course, Aladdin eventually does get the lamp, and of course Jafar tries to betray him, but Aladdin manages, well, Abu manages to steal back the lamp before Aladdin and Abu kind of escape out of the cave eventually. Um, and of course Aladdin then figures out the lamp has magical powers, and it ends up popping up genie. And of course, with the whole three wish thing, anyway, he ends up using the first wish anyway, to try to become a prince, so that he can actually have royal status to try to meet Princess Jasmine, and obviously try to get her to notice him. And of course, a lot of stuff has happened between that point. That he's being shown, he shows off his wealth to everyone else. He tries to eventually meet up with Jasmine back at the palace, and of course, they end up going through this whole carpet ride song, the whole motif, like in the animated film. And of course, afterwards, she does fall for Aladdin, or I guess at the time he's calling himself Prince Ali, Prince Ali of Ababwa, and of course, he's somewhat ecstatic that she's fallen for him, but at the same time, he's kind of disappointed in himself that he's been kind of going through a whole lie, that he's not a prince, and that and Genie's kind of been trying to tell him that he should be himself, not be someone he knows he isn't. So anyway, afterwards, Jafar manages to discover Aladdin's true identity, and he tries to get him killed and also try to steal the lamp from him. And of course, he ends up getting caught. Jafar ends up getting caught. He gets thrown into prison. He ends up escaping, and then while Aladdin is roaming in the streets, he bumps into Jafar unknowingly and ends up stealing the lamp from Aladdin. Of course, at that point, Jafar ends up using the lamp for his own personal gain, try to become the Sultan. And then, of course, he ends up later becoming a powerful sorcerer. And then, of course, Aladdin eventually jumps in to try to save everyone in the palace. Of course, it ends up failing, but in the end, he ends up tricking Jafar into using his final wish to become the most powerful being in the universe. Essentially means him becoming a genie, which of course that wish is granted, but of course it comes at a cost since now that Jafar became a genie, he's also trapped within his own lamp. So through mostly stupidity, Jafar manages to trap himself, and of course throughout the time, uh, of course at the end of it all, Aladdin still had one more wish remaining. He was considering using it for himself one last time, but he decides to use the last wish to try to set Genie free, which he does. And of course, after showing her courage and strength, the Sultan allowed Jasmine to become the new Sultan, and allowing her to change the law, saying that she had to marry a prince. So in the end of it all, Genie, who's now human, ends up being together with the handmaiden of Jasmine, and of course, Aladdin and Jasmine eventually do end up being together. Or for the good of this film, I have to say, well, I guess I have to say for one thing, the singing is actually not that bad. I was actually kind of more worried that they were going to go for more of a, I guess, an auto tune type feel to it, considering sometimes you get actors that can't really quite sing that well. Not terrible, but they're like, not really that talented in singing, so they kind of have to somewhat help him out with a little bit of auto tuning. But no, I mean it sounded pretty natural. Or if there was even auto tuning, I mean it wasn't that noticeable. It seemed pretty natural. Almost compared it to like the original songs, it sounded almost roughly the same. I think I also kind of threw in some original songs in there. I think not 100% sure on that. I mean it's been a while since I've seen the animated movie, but I mean either way though, the singing does sound pretty good. Second, I would have to say uh, I guess the cast wise, for the most part, the characters of Aladdin, Jasmine, uh, Genie, I mean, they all played out pretty well. I mean, Aladdin's still the street urchin who tries to kind of help out the needy, and at the same time, kind of falls for Princess Jasmine. Kind of goes into like a whole moral lesson throughout the entire story. Jasmine plays out pretty much the same. Well, actually, I would say Jasmine plays out a little bit more in this film as she's trying to become more of an independent woman, trying to fight for her people, essentially. I mean, that's why she wants to become the next sultan to try to help her people. She's not just a regular damsel in distress like you've seen in the other Disney films. Uh, and then I have to say probably Genie, Will Smith playing as Genie. Kind of skeptical at first, honestly, because I didn't know how well of a performance Will Smith was gonna really play as Genie, but I actually think he did a pretty good job. I mean, he wasn't just straight up copying Robin Williams' performance. I would say he's paying more homage to it, for Robin Williams' sake, and at the same time trying to throw in some original stuff that Will Smith is best known for. And I actually kind of think it worked out for comedic effect, anyway. And then I guess the third thing I have to say is the third thing I have to say is the whole environment of Agrabah itself. It's to me it's pretty lively, even more so compared to the animated version, which I guess they only were able to show so much back then. But here, I mean, it was pretty lively town. I mean, there was like residents, people, soldiers all throughout the entire movie itself, and so it does make it seem like an actual place that you could really visit, and well, I mean, minus the whole magical aspect to it. Well, for the bad, really, I can only think of two things. For one, I'll have to say I know I said I liked the cast, or at least the main cast of Lion, Jasmine, and Genie. To me, though, the only thing that I didn't really quite like, unfortunately, was Jafar and I guess his companion Lago. Yeah, the problem with Jafar is he didn't seem menacing compared to the original animated film. I mean, he was just more or less there, to be honest. I mean, I think he might have like a sly demeanor, but I mean, I didn't sense really anything uh evil about him. In fact, I think honestly at moments it kind of felt like you can somewhat almost reason with him. You can somewhat almost understand him. And then as for Lago, yeah, I mean, he Lago's there, but it's acting more parrot-like. Unfortunately, it doesn't have since there's no since Gilbert Gottfried is not voicing Lago this time around. Unfortunately, it just doesn't have the comedic banter between Lago and Jafar. Unfortunately, it's in the original. And then the second thing altogether I had to say is kind of the CGI, the whole graphical fidelity of this film. To me, it was kind of more of like a hit and miss. Like some things did it pretty well, like the whole cave thing that was pretty nice. That the whole carpet ride sequence with Aladdin and Jasmine, that was pretty good. But like other things like for instance when Genie does like magical effects, magical powers, stuff like that, it doesn't really pop out as much compared to animated version. And I guess even in the climatic ending where Jafar showing off his sorcery skills and then eventually ends up showing off his powers as a genie, it just doesn't like stand out as much. It just seems kind of on the dull side. Well, overall, I would have to say that this movie here actually did a pretty good job of recreating the animated movie. Well, I say that, and I've seen uh, modern remakes of live action remakes of movies, of anime, of anime series, cartoons, whatever, and for the most part, they really don't go so well. They're mostly just there, or they're kind of just forgotten, or you kind of just miss the whole point of what made the cartoon or anime pretty good to begin with. But luckily, this is kind of one of the few exceptions. I mean, I say in a way it kind of played it safe. It just kind of retold the story of Aladdin from the old Disney cartoon, and I'd say it actually worked out pretty well. I mean, I would have liked if they took a little bit more risk, for more of a modern take. But I say it'd be better just playing it safe than trying to go like outside the boundaries of the original film and kind of messing up completely. But I say with that though, it's actually a pretty entertaining movie. I guess really whichever you pick, it's pretty decent. I'll probably still go with the cartoon animated version because it's just more iconic for most viewers who grew up with the Disney films in the past. But with that though, I would probably give this movie, this Aladdin remake, I would probably give it a score of an 8 out of 10. I would say it's actually worth watching at least once. I mean, it's to take your pick on it. They both did pretty well. It's just whatever you want. It's just if you want something that's kind of more classic and iconic, go with the animated. Or if you want something that's a little bit more modern, up to date, the this live action is actually not bad either. All right, guys, this is DevilHunterXYZ. Until next time.